Don't be stuck with just knowing. It's troublemaker. Don't be stuck with just seeing and knowing. Step back to my, from my itself. Step back from the stepping back itself, with everything not grasping for the non-grasping itself. The mighty force will turn into the purification of the extinction, helping through unwinding and releasing all by itself. Being stuck with just knowing, seeing, it doesn't help anything. Step back furthermore from the stepping back itself. This is not just stepping back from body, mind, or all things. Step back from the stepping back itself. Dissolve the stepping back itself without grasping for itself. Discard the stepping back itself. Let's be boundless in a way that doesn't grasp for the non-grasping itself. The emptiness has no boundaries. Mark this point. The boundlessness is in the way that the non-grasping doesn't grasp for itself, in the way of give up the giving up itself. That is truly boundless. Boundless in the way that is give up the giving up itself, not grasping for the non-grasping itself. Then it will be truly boundless. Let's not try to be boundless. It's like something that is soaring forward. It's not something that is having an identity within the boundlessness. Let's purify this kind of overlaying. The boundlessness is in the way of my from my itself, not grasping for the non-grasping itself. Let's purify the overlaying on top of the boundlessness. This is not about having an identity to be boundless. The boundlessness is from not grasping for the non-grasping itself. Then it's automatic. When there is a tiny bit of grasping, there's already limitations. With just looking, maintaining, knowing, there is already boundaries within such knowing. Boundlessness is from not grasping for the non-grasping itself, therefore is truly boundless. In other words, it's called the purification of the emptiness for samsara. Let's purify the overlaying thoroughly. With everything not grasping for the non-grasping itself, let's purify the overlaying thoroughly. Overlaying on top of looking, seeing, and knowing. Overlaying being empty or not empty, my or not my, involvement or uninvolvement. Let's purify this kind of overlaying. Overlaying on top of grasping or not grasping. With everything is not grasping for the non-grasping itself. This will purify all about grasping or not grasping, taking or not taking. This will be dissolved and purified. That which has nothing to do with being empty or not. This will purify the feelings that is empty or not empty. All the thoughts of being empty or not empty will be purified. The emptiness is not emptiness. Let's purify the overlaying. That which has nothing to do with being empty or not. It has nothing to do with Nibbana or not Nibbana. Let's extinct all this kind of overlaying on top of anything that which has nothing to do with Nibbana or not Nibbana, having nothing to do with being empty or not. There is no identification within involvement or uninvolvement. Let's purify the overlaying right away. That which has nothing to do with being empty or not, then is truly empty. Nothing is within being empty. That is truly empty. Emptiness is not emptiness itself. That is true emptiness. Use the reminders accordingly. Whatever sentences that are used, just follow that. It will help brighten out and releasing out accordingly. Stillness is like staying still. It's not going anywhere. Don't use it. Constantly use the reminders. This is for blessing samsara. When samsara is ended, we will not use them. Reminders are not for the sake of oneself. It's to help unwind for samsara. If samsara is not existing, then we don't have to use this. Continue to use reminders for blessing. This will be the power that is reaching samsara automatically. Power of the parami that is closed up will be used for samsara, for blessing samsara. Use the reminders with the power of the parami, with grasping, not grasping for the non-grasping itself, with everything. Power of parami will be pushed forward towards samsara in this kind of purification. Each reminder has power in itself. This is the essence of Sunyata Samabhat. The reminders that don't grasp themselves, they are to purify samsara. Everything is from not grasping for the non-grasping itself. This is the reminders that have auto-purification in itself. This is called helping through unwinding and releasing. Let's shift towards the essence of the great compassion. This is not only about the nation's homeland or certain realms of existence. This is for the whole samsara. The Maha Karuna of the Buddhas and Mahabharami is meant for samsara, not to be specific for certain realms of existence or anything. Stillness is not for stillness. Mindfulness is not for mindfulness. This is boundless. Therefore, we need to use the sentences that purify boundaries. Everything is from give up the giving up itself. Everything is from discard the discarding itself. Use this to guide the way constantly. This is will be opening up of the essence of the great compassion further. You can use this forever. This is not about ending something within oneself. This is ending for samsara. Oneself is samsara, is a big one. Samsara is oneself is samsara. Therefore, let's help end for samsara. Let's help one another to use these sentences, these reminders. It will help releasing out simultaneously, helping through releasing for one another. This is the kind of reminders that have auto-purification in itself. Reminders out from the reminders themselves. It's not out of anything. out itself. Its auto-purification from being out is not out of anything. Use these, therefore it will be balanced with samsara automatically. If one is being specific, it's being specific with just one's own mind, one's own Dharma attainment. The great compassion of Buddhas is means for samsara. Nibbana is not being specific with just Nibbana. Vimutti, liberation, is not just with liberation. It's not specific. It's not for the sake of itself. When there is a separation, there is specificity. Being specific with stillness. Being solitude because of the protection for being solitude, for a seclusion. That is a kind of belief value which cannot be used because there will be grasping for that kind of belief values. Let's be beneficial for the whole samsara instead. Purify all types of belief values. The discarding itself is not about discarding anything, otherwise it's going to be a belief value to discard something. Therefore, discard the discarding itself. The act of discarding something becomes a belief value. There is a separation there. That is a kind of belief values that grasp for itself. Therefore, continue with the essence of discard the discarding itself. This will be a purification for the belief values. Discarding is not going to discard from something. Therefore, use discard the discarding itself instead. Discard itself means discard the discarding itself. Let go of itself, it means let go of the letting go itself. Use this kind of reminders because it has auto-purification in itself. And proceed simultaneously with everything, with the great compassion. The kind of parami of metta, loving kindness, it cannot be used because it binds samsara with one's metta. Binding the beings with one's metta is going nowhere. It's a kind of seed of realms of existence. Metta sunyata will turn into purification of extinction and emptiness instead. Metta of sunyata purifies samsara. Since samadhi and bhavana, there is no need to involve with it. Everything is anatta by its nature. There is no need to correct anything. Just use the reminders to purify samsara continuously. This will become power to purify samsara automatically. It's not a kind of sila and samadhi that grasps for itself, for the sake of itself, because it becomes realms of existence. That cannot help purify samsara or the beings. The only thing that can purify is through emptiness and extinction. And when using this way, it will be directly and aligned. Sila, Samadhi, and Panya and Bhavana, it only creates realms of existence. And being specific with certain realms of existence. Therefore, use the reminders that purify through extinction and emptiness with everything, not attached to the non-attachment itself, with everything Refrain from refraining itself is not about refraining from something. And this will not become realm of existence. The act of refraining has an identity of refraining. It's become a realm of existence. Abstain from abstaining itself, refrain from refraining itself. This will end all burdens. To maintain sila and samadhi, there is a burden, always maintaining. That is a kind of burden. Sila is just a made-up thing. It's not real. Real sila doesn't exist. There is no such thing as someone who observing sila. Sila is not even sila itself. Let's end it. That is made up by anatta, anicca, and dukkha. Nibbana is not in the category of being sila or not. The world made up dhamma all by themselves and create that for the delusive attachment to hold on to. There is no real self. There is just occasional deluded attachment which creates blind faith in sila, because that is the place for the delusive attachment to hold on to. And it's happening occasionally. This is called delusion or delusive attachment, which is also anatta in itself. Therefore, everything is from not grasping for the non-grasping itself. Everything is from not attached to the non-attachment itself. Let's proceed with this essence simultaneously with everything. Let's conclude and come to terms with Nibbana and Vimutti, because in the past it's not yet there. Assume up and then hold on to something that one assumed up. There is no need. That which has nothing to do with being obligated or not, any set up or not, and involved within the uninvolvement itself. Once you start, it becomes samsara. Once you start to practice, it becomes samsara. Samsara of karma. Karma overlaying dhamma. That which has nothing to do with beginning or ending anything. Uninvolved even within the uninvolvement itself. End desire, delusion, and delusive attachment all by itself in such a way, with this kind of sentences. Therefore, it will end the samudaya. Use the reminders constantly. That which has nothing to do with being empty or not. Having nothing to do with my or not my. That which has nothing to do with liberating or not, being detached or not, and all burdens of all practices, and all burdens of all sustaining. And the burdens of sustenance of all practices, of all maintaining and sustaining. The emptiness is still a burden when you project for it, that which has nothing to do with being empty or not. And then you will have no condition with the emptiness at all. That is ending all burdens. That which has nothing to do with liberating or not. This way is ending the burdens of the one who is practicing, of the one who is sustaining and maintaining in such burdens. This is in all missions. that which has nothing to do with my or not my, proceeding simultaneously with the whole samsara, instantly end all burdens, right away. This has nothing to do with the emptiness, being empty or not. This is emptiness that is not emptiness. When the emptiness, it's because of the titi that is grasping. The titi that is made up, assume up the emptiness. That is not true emptiness. True emptiness doesn't signify itself. So here again, that which has nothing to do with being empty or not. This will end all about using titi with the emptiness or not emptiness. Because samsara is stuck with titi that is assumed up. Fabricating titi to overlay, to overpower oneself and bound with one's own titi. Samsara is like this, bound by one's own titi, assume up and overpower the wisdoms as well. Form up, make up all these things and being deluded to it. Let's be thorough here. This samsara assume up titi to be bound with itself, especially the wisdom. Assume up wisdom and be bound with the wisdom and being deluded to wisdom. This is the assume up that is deluded to itself. Let's purify it. Purify it by hear the sentence that have auto-purification. If you feel that there is emptiness, listen again, hear again, that which has nothing to do with being empty or not, in all conditions with the so-called being empty or not empty by samsara. Samsara's word of emptiness, it still creates realms of existence. So that's not the way. That which has nothing to do with being empty or not. Therefore, it has no one who is being empty or not. Therefore, there is no one who is being empty or not empty. That immediately becomes the essence. That is the conclusion of Nirodha and Nibbana, just with one sentence. That's it. Let's continue to give ending for samsara constantly. Your emptiness with everything is still samsara. Emptiness is not even emptiness itself. Being emptiness in this way or that way, even everything is emptiness, is still a titi. It cannot used with this era anymore because there's always grasping with this kind of aspect, that which has nothing to do with being empty or not, child. That which is not involved even within the uninvolvement itself. Use these reminders. This is the great compassion. They are reminders that purify samsara, purifying titi. Then the mighty force, the Anupav, will be releasing and unwinding, helping in such a way. This is the reminders that purify the purification itself. There is no complication. It's not the same as when you try to sustain anything. Kamastana Vipassana meditation is a complication because it's always fixating, always practicing. It's the attributes, a kind of karma. This is not karma. This has nothing to do with the attempt to begin or to end. Therefore, there is no complication. That's why let's conclude through Nibbana. Samsara, let's do it. Let's conclude through the conclusion itself. Let's do it. Continue to use the auto-purification within the reminders constantly. For all Buddha eras, Samsara and Nibbana, let's ahosi all together. Ahosi, ahosi, ahosi. Let's proceed simultaneously all together. Let's proceed with the great compassion all together. Let's purify all together. Dissolve all together. Not grasping for the non-grasping all together. That which has nothing to do with attachment or non-attachment. Let's proceed all together. That which has nothing to do with being empty or not. All together proceed simultaneously, dissolve and unwind from all realms of existence altogether. Realm of existence is derived from grasping for oneself, states of mind, that becomes realm of existence. Realms of what? Realms of the delusive attachment, the upatan, the deluded attachment occasionally. This is the habit of the upatan. There is no real self. Everything is anatta. There is non-self, no real self. So all that which is made up, it just deludedly attached occasionally. Use reminders that has auto-purification. It will dissolve all the karmic habits. All that creation of realms of existence will dissolve automatically. All the creation of karma will be dissolved automatically. Everything is from not attached to the non-attachment itself in its nature. We make up later on. The origin is emptiness, is not emptiness as it is in its nature. We've made up later on about the emptiness. So here again, that which is from not attached to the non-attachment itself in its nature. This is not about we are trying to not attach to anything that is an assumed up. It's a fabrication which creates difficulty right away, because trying to attach to that which is not attached to itself, even to the non-attachment itself. Just like you try to be empty again on top. Emptiness is not emptiness as it is. Trying to be empty is like you make it up on top. Nature of the emptiness has no one that is being empty or not. It's not being empty from anything either, neither from the defilements nor all things. Neither is being empty from anything whatsoever. Being empty from anything is made up by one's own titi. Being empty from defilement, from emotions, from thought, that is fabricated by one's own titi, that is not truly empty. Emptiness is not truly being empty. It doesn't signify itself. Let's purify this kind of titi, that which has nothing to do with being empty or not, and our burdens about being empty or not empty immediately. There is no need to use this kind of titi any longer. Even you make it up, which looks good, like being empty from defilement, which looks good. How can you be empty from anything? Emptiness is not even emptiness itself. It cannot be in the status from anything. This is a kind of titi, fabricated titi, being empty to this, from this and that, not empty from this and that. Let's purify this kind of assume up, auto-purification to the assume up. Everything is not grasped for the non-grasping itself. This is auto-purification in the assume up. This will not become samsara within the assume up. Everything is from not grasping for the non-grasping itself. Non-attachment is an assume up. Let's purify itself. Everything is from not attached to the non-attachment itself. This is the auto-purification in the non-attachment itself. It will dissolve all about someone who is not attached right away. Everything is from not attached to the non-attachment itself. All about someone who is not attached will be extinct immediately with this sentence. There is no one who is liberated. It's just the made-up titi. That which has nothing to do with being liberated or not, uninvolved even within the involvement itself. How can we obsess with being the beings, or as humans, on and on? It cannot become anyone or anything at all. It cannot become who is the one who is liberated or not. There is no status here. Here again, thoroughly, dissolve status, because it is the samudaya in itself. It is the delusive attachment, actually. To uninvolve with this and that, in this way or that way, that is still having someone who is doing it. Let's purify such act, uninvolved within the involvement itself. Then there will be no one who is involved or uninvolved. No one who is acting or not acting in certain ways. Hear well. There will be nothing that is in the goodness. Hear well. Nothing is left even in the goodness. Nothing is gonna be in the goodness. In this way, you can help end for samsara forever and ever, not just for certain Buddha era. Let's use the reminders to purify with the great compassion. Reminders of the great compassion is to purify samsara. That's why it's called the reminders of the great compassion. Not just for the sake of oneself. It's meant for samsara. Therefore, use it for samsara. That which has nothing to do with mine or not mine. Nothing to do with being empty or not. Let's conclude with everything in such a way. purify dualities of Titi, purify all meanings of dualities, all the discarding or not discarding. This is a kind of dualities. Let's purify it. If you separate it, it's just suffering. Attached, unattached, non-attached, involved, uninvolved, being empty or not empty. Let's move on. That is a kind of difficult Titi. Everything is from not attached to the non-attachment itself. If there is someone who is not attached, even a tiny bit, it's a mistake. It becomes samsara right away if there is someone who is attached or not attached, even a tiny bit. This is called cease the ceasing itself, end the ending itself. They are extremely trying to let go. But that is a Titi. It becomes samsara of the noble ones and samsara of the worldlings. The noble ones still samsara because they create path, the path of letting go. That which has nothing to do with letting go or not letting go. Let's end all about being the noble ones or the worldlings. Let's end this kind of game. Titi. Let's continue with this courage to share this essence, to give ending for samsara altogether. Be the collective power to stimulate the essence of the great compassion altogether in this samsara. The act of letting go and discarding is exhausting. Everything has nothing to do with discarding or not discarding. Let's end the fight of the worldlings, of the noble ones. Let's purify this type of Titi. Let's not be obsessed with just being noble ones or worldlings. Let's conclude through Nibbana. That which has nothing to do with letting go or not letting go. Let's come to terms with Nibbana right away. That which has nothing to do with Nibbana or not Nibbana. Let's come to terms with Nibbana right now. Right now. That which has nothing to do with even involvement or uninvolvement. End the conclusion itself. Conclude the conclusion itself. Therefore, each reminder is to be given for samsara. They are to purify samsara. It is spontaneous essence to give ending the delusion, all types of deluded viewpoints. Samsara is bound by Titi. Being conditioned too much with Titi. With opinions and meanings in this way and that way. Let's purify all kind of conditions as such. Assume up wisdom to grasp for it. Assume up knowing to be bound by knowing. This is the assume up that is fixated to itself, becoming samsara within itself. Let's use the auto-purification in the reminders. in the assumed up. It will purify the samutaya of terminologies. This is another era already, unlike the past era. Listen to that which is not grasping for the listening. Listen to something that gives ending.